Yeah, there was another yeah.
All right. Aloha kako, everyone. Welcome. Good evening. To start off, I'd like to welcome up Lonnie Olson-Chong to give a pule for this evening, if that's right, Lonnie.
Our Father in heaven, we are gathered here this evening for our Waimea Community Association. Grateful, Heavenly Father, for the opportunity to be here. We ask Thee, Father, to bless those on their way that they may arrive in safety. We ask Thee, Father, to be with all the presenters this evening and all the information that they have to share, that we as a community members will be receptive to their teachings and be willing to help in any way we can to move forward with our community. We ask Thee to take us home after the meeting is over, that everyone will reach home in safety. Is our prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Mahalo, Lonnie. Thank you so much. Aloha, everyone. Welcome. Good evening. A little bit of different scenario here. Sorry I couldn't join you in person. My name is James Hustace. I'm the president of the Waimea Community Association. Thank you all for joining us online tonight. Tonight we are gathered in a hybrid setting with friends and community members joining us at Tutu's house and online. So thank you for being with us here this evening. As always, if you'd like to follow, like, and subscribe to the Waimea Community Association on our social accounts, you'll also find relevant information and resources up on our website at waimeatown.org. We do strive to keep our accounts active and up to date. This evening, we're streaming both to YouTube and Facebook. And as always, this recording will be made available for later viewing. And at this point, I would like to recognize my fellow board members, our Vice President, Mary Beth Lachek, our Secretary, Nancy Carr-Smith, our directors, Patty Cook, David Greenwell, Whitney Harvey, Lonnie Olson-Chong, Riley Smith, and Chris Wong. On behalf of the WCA board, we are grateful for the support shown by you, the community, to hold these town meetings. Thank you for all of your interest in joining us for our past meetings, for viewing and sharing these recordings. The Waimea Community Association is a nonprofit organization that strives to promote open participation by all of the Waimea community, develop leadership, and support the smart growth of the region. If you'd like to support the work that we have done and help continue our effort in connecting with our community, you are more than welcome to donate or join as a member. You can visit our website, waimeatown.org, for more information, or send us an email at waimeacommunityassociation@gmail.com for more details. You can also sit and talk to one of our board members that are in attendance there at Tutu's house. If you join us in person this evening, they're happy to answer any of your questions. Your contributions and your membership allow us to reach out and connect with the community in this setting and support the work that the Waimea Community Association has done over the past 60 years. Mahalo nui for your support. We are also grateful for the generosity of Tutu's house and Friends of the Future this evening. It's been important for us to bring our meetings back in person, have that in-person aspect, while maintaining these virtual components that the community has expected and really appreciated over the past couple years now. For our agenda this evening, we'll be hearing from our elected officials, emergency response leaders, and community members as we reflect upon the recent wildfire impacts to our communities and the devastation and loss for our Maui neighbors. We have allocated time at the end of our agenda this evening to share your questions. We do appreciate community members sending their questions ahead of time. So for our viewers watching online, please send in the live chat to pose your question. We'll do the best that we can to share them with our guests. And for those attending in person, I will lean on one of my board members there to help call on individuals when the time is appropriate. And we'll do our best to address as many questions as possible this evening in the time we have. Mahalo nui. Just going to share my screen here quickly on a couple things. Going to take a little bit things out of order here, but I just wanted to update on a couple of upcoming events, and we really want to dedicate the time to the meat of the program here. So Give me a moment while I share my screen here and just touch on a couple different events. Okay, so first up, as everyone can see on their screen there, this Saturday, and this Saturday is the Waimea Fire Prevention and Resilience Fair here in Waimea at the Kohala Town Hall, Mana Christian Ohana Kohala Town Hall. We run from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We have a lot of different community organizations and partners that have been part of this effort. This has been led by the Waimea Resilience Hub, this event being put on by them, but being supported by about 30 community partners and organizations across the island to bring this together, to bring information to our community and to the public on things that we can do as citizens for our community around our homes, and how we can engage with our leaders and elected officials, as well as organizations that are out there doing the hard work in our community. So please do stop by. It's a free event. Families are all invited. There will be in attendance are first responders. You get to see some of their equipment that they use out in the field, and really get to engage with all different organizations and people that are working to support our community and create a resilient and prepared community. So thank you all for putting this on, and we look forward to seeing you there on Saturday. The next one is actually just next weekend, so I thought I'd throw this on the agenda quickly, is Old Hawaii on Horseback up at Waikiki Polo Field. The tickets are available up on the Paniolo Preservation website. So please go ahead and buy a ticket there. Event is from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Once again, up at the Waikiki Ranch Polo Field. So an exciting event to attend. I look forward to seeing you up there as well. And then you've probably seen some of this on your radar. The County of Hawaii and their general plan, we're going through a review and update phase right now. And there are a couple of meetings upcoming. One is at the end of this month, so I won't be able to announce it until our next meeting. But we will be joined by Planning Department at our next meeting to talk a little bit more about this. But these two meetings in person, one on the west side of the island and one on the east side, are really public informational workshops for the purpose of learning about the general plan, providing some input and feedback, and really seeing how the process is going. So I do encourage you to attend those if possible. And I think there might be some virtual programming as well, and you just have to visit the website, the county planning website, for more information on that. And I think I will leave it at that for now, and then I'll come back to one a little bit later. So thank you for that. I don't believe we have our next guest with us right yet, so I'm gonna jump ahead in our agenda, if that's okay. As we have a number of special guests on the call here this evening, and as we look back at the extreme weather situation that we had 1 month ago, we really reflect and consider the efforts that our first responders do to protect our communities. And so I would like to first welcome and mahalo our Hawaii Fire Department Chief Kazuo Todd with us here this evening to really share some insight into these recent events. Welcome, Chief. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's always good to talk with the community and be able to have that back and forth dialogue about the realities of our situations here in the islands and how that affects fire and everything else. Wasn't sure if you want me to go into detail on anything specific, but
yes. So any sort of recap on our Kohala events, and then the efforts that our first responders really took on during that extreme weather event, and then also your engagement across the county with those events, and then also our support for Maui too, if you want to throw in something about that too.
All right. So when we're talking about fire and we're talking about kind of the future and things like that, I think Waimea is most familiar with. Approximately 2 years ago, we had our Mana Road fire, which burned 40,000 acres, all through starting on Mana Road and essentially going down towards Waikoloa, and basically being a really drastic event for us. It was one of the first wind-driven fires where we were not able to get ahead of it. We weren't even able to keep up with it, and the wind was pushing the fire faster than our department was able to actually keep up with. And so this changed kind of the dynamic and the way we're looking at fire. Historically, honestly, in approximately maybe like the last 5 years, we've been setting records across the country, as well as even in other parts of the world with fire that aren't really good records to set. This goes back to like the Tubbs fire in California, Marshall fire out in Colorado, Camp Fire in California again, where each of these fires were just record breaking and not for good reasons, thousands of homes, Camp Fire burned 19,000 structures. And up until, Lahaina had been the largest death toll for an American fire in record. We go back about 100 years ago and fire, these conflagrations that would come out and take out large cities were more normal, but that was because we built everything out of wood. And we decided to create planning codes where there needed to be distance. We needed to create building codes where buildings were built with things that prevented fire or kept the fire contained to the structure of origin or things like that. And that has worked for us for many, many years. The kind of glaring exception to that has been, kind of California, and a lot of people kind of building their houses out in the middle of the forest and building their house with wooded shake shingle roofs. And so we kind of expected there, that seems like, they're just not really building in the right location and things like that. And they've come up with solutions for that, such as like Firewise and defensible space and things like that, and choosing proper building materials. I think in the last 5 years, we've seen a change in just the fire dynamic. And some of this has become because of the weather, because of just the change in the amount of energy that's in the environment. Our ability to have these weather-driven events that change how we see fire and what is actually happening has been occurring. And so, obviously August 8th, we have, a weather system coming in that starts a high wind event. And at the same time, we have a red flag event where we have very, very low moisture and those high winds to drive stuff. So if a fire starts, we got a problem. Most of my personnel out on the scene for the different fires that we had on our island, related it back as a fire unlike anything they'd ever fought in their career. The sheer amount of pressure that the wind was coming in and pushing people around, the inability to have hose streams even go straight because the wind would blow it behind you instead of in front of you. Some of our lighter personnel were having to hold on to the trucks so they didn't get blown down the street. And what our normal, suppression plan is built around dozers and helicopter drops, and then our vehicles to catch the fire at the edges. Our helicopters are down because the high winds make it too dangerous for them to fly. The wind's driving the flames faster than dozers can get around it, and we're just scrambling to get out there. I think we got, I guess, pretty lucky on our island in some ways. We have a unique situation that we're the only island that has volunteer firefighters. So I have another 18 stations worth of volunteers that no other island in the state has access to right now. And that, in inclusive of my paid personnel, allows us to dump, honestly, more resources on a fire than other county agencies throughout the state, short of maybe Oahu, where they have 44 stations. We have 18 volunteer and 20 paid stations. These combined together allow us to dump about 38 stations potentially of equipment or trucks or things like that. We have an amazing working relationship with the Department of Forestry and Wildlife, the Park Service, and our military fire department up on PTA. And all of them were on this fire working with us. And so our ability on this island to still have a good group of people working together to solve the problem is something, that's been remarked on. It's kind of unique. We got very, very lucky. We lost one major structure down in the Mauna Kea beach area, a large warehouse structure that protected or that serviced the Mauna Kea Beach Hotel. And we had about 7 structures that sustained damage that we were able to put out and stop them from actually burning down. So we didn't lose any residential structures. Our personnel, and I've watched the videos, did an amazing job. And not to take away from Lahaina and the issues that Maui faced, but definitely it was an extremely touch and go event. And our personnel went out there and in concert with our other agencies on the island, did an amazing job to stop and keep our fires from spreading that far. We actually had 7 fires that day.
Amazing. Thank you, Chief Todd. Appreciate that insight into what our personnel faced those days last month. So thank you for that. And in conjunction with our police and our fire efforts, I would also like to welcome on the call our Civil Defense Administrator, Talmadge Magno, to say a few words about the role of our county civil defense during emergency events and their partnership with our emergency personnel that are on the ground. Welcome, Administrator.
Good evening, James. Thanks for having me. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. Yes, loud and clear.
Awesome.
Thanks, Talmadge.
Piggybacking on what Chief Todd was explaining, we had some extreme weather with very high, dangerous, extreme fire conditions. And so from that event on August 8th, we learned quite a bit. And so I'll kind of go over what we did for that August 8th event, and then, kind of what happened in late August, the end of August. We had another fire watch event, and then kind of go over what we've been doing to support Maui. But so, we work really closely with the National Weather Service, and we consider them subject matter experts, as we do in many of the other, disasters that we try to get ready for, like Hawaii Volcano Observatory. So National Weather Service, we're working with them really closely, tracking Hurricane Dora. It looks like it's not going to impact us, but they see setting up a high pressure north of the state, and they see that it's going to be bringing in this really high wind, low humidity situation. And I think our first messaging went out on August 6th to state that the hurricane's not going to, cause any issues for the state, but be prepared. We've got this fire weather situation, possibly setting up. And so that was August 6th. By the 7th, they issued the warning. The warning came out later, and we issued our messages, and so we've been meeting with the county departments to prepare for this, to be ready. And so when the fires broke out on the morning of the 8th, the EOC was activated, fire responded, police responded, and took their normal actions. But already we saw the wind had built up, wind was strong, the problems were created, evacuations were happened. We did our routine operation where shelters were open, messages were put out, making sure that the affected communities and anybody else around will recognize what areas were closed down, what areas were evacuated, communicated with DOE what was going on. All the people that were affected, we get the message out to and start talking to, directly. So EOC gets activated, and we ramp up, and we're dealing with this. And so, Chief Todd said what kind of damages we had. Pretty lucky here. We were so busy in the EOC that I did not even know what was going on in Maui. I knew they had activities too, but we were so focused that I didn't realize what devastation they had until the next morning. And so, by that time we saw the humidity coming up the next day. And so we're starting to get some relief, after 24 hours. So that helped. That's how closely we have to watch the environment, I guess, because it affects fire behavior. So, we got a break there. Fire started laying down, and we were able to get a handle on it. Lost some structures, as the chief said, but no lives impacted. So we got fortunate there. So what we learned is towards the end of the month, and you can see by the way we pushed out our messages that, ahead of the fire watch and the period that National Weather Service was saying we were going to be experiencing that weather, and they recognized that it wasn't going to be as drastic as that early August period, but we nevertheless realizing that one way to not have this kind of incidents happen is basically prevention. And so we went out and put on the mayor's emergency proclamation, no open flame, no burning of any kind. And that under the proclamation makes it a misdemeanor that police can enforce. So that's the stance we took on the second go round, recognizing that we don't want this to happen and doing all the mitigation that we can and all the prevention. So getting even more serious about making it that no fire starts are happening. Of course, it never developed like it did on the early August period, and we didn't have any fire starts during that period, the later August period anyway. So that was good. But I'd say you can kind of continue to look at us for that level of messaging and wording in our messages and proclamations, so that we don't get into the situation. So as far as the measures that we have in place, we work closely with the National Weather Service, so they provide that information, they provide that guidance as far as timing of any kind of impacts, and then we push that message out to the public so that they are getting ready. What we need to do, and this is continuous education that we do, is that the public gets our messaging, be able to get our messages, our Everbridge messages. When it gets into the severe situations, we would push out what's called the Integrated Public Alert Warning System, which is the national system that puts out the wireless message, puts out the emergency alert system, which is the scroller you see on a TV, and the radio. So those are all at our disposal to use for messaging. So people need to be able to get those messages. So those are the main things. And they, of course, they need to have a plan. They need to have a plan when those messages come out, what they're going to do. They have to look at their individual self and understand their vulnerabilities, whether it's fire, flooding, high surf, what impacts them, and what's their workaround, what's the planning that they need to do. So that's kind of the individual preparedness that needs to happen. So that combined, I think that's how we work towards a resilient community. Also, a plug-in for this weekend's event. I'll be there too. If anybody's got any questions that doesn't get answered today, if you want to talk story, I'll be there. To talk story. But as far as Maui, police had been sending folks from early on. They had a high need for public affairs folks with all the messaging. So different departments, public works, water, police, they've sent their PIO folks. Big groups of police have been over there. And then we just started sending our EOC staff, planning chief and a logistics chief and a safety officer. We'll continue to be sending people all the way into November to support their EOC operations. So James, I think that's it for now. And I'll be available at the end. And I said again on Saturday.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Administrator. Thanks for your time here. You're welcome to stay on too when we get to the question part and a couple more things that could pop up. So thank you, Administrator Magno. Yeah. As we transition here, from donation drives to full day concerts, really the outpouring of aloha for Maui has been tremendous. Community members have stepped up far and wide to care for the immediate needs of those that have been displaced or lost loved ones. And it will take sustained efforts to reinstill hope, and concerted efforts by our elected leaders from all levels of government will be there to guide us as communities move forward. So from her efforts in supporting impacted families on Maui to working alongside other federal leaders, tonight we're truly grateful to be joined by our U.S. Representative, Jewel Tokuda. Welcome, Representative. Thanks for joining us here.
Thank you, James. I hope you're able to hear me okay.
Yes.
In case you can't tell, I am in the Hilo airport at this moment. And unfortunately, the place with the best Wi-Fi connection is outside and a little loud. So apologies if I get interrupted by any service announcements that you may hear. But just really glad that I'm able to join on this particular call. First and foremost, I just really want to thank all of the first responders, everyone on island that has really reached out to help our Maui community. But more importantly as well, what I have been telling my colleagues as they've come, as you may have heard, we have had a bipartisan congressional delegation come to Hawaii. We were able to bring our minority whip, Catherine Clark, here from our leadership. She wanted to be present on behalf of the Democratic caucus to really see the damage and devastation for herself firsthand. To the Speaker of the House coming, I did call him early on and invite him to come to Hawaii. All of them here, but I did remind them as soon as they set foot in Hawaii that on that day, there were 2 islands on fire. When I looked out across my district, I saw so many places in threat that I really wanted them to know that while Lahaina is deeply in our hearts and in our minds and definitely devastated, it could have been so much worse. It came so close in so many communities. You know, thank you to Senator Tim Richards. I think he is on this call, or he will be. But, you know, he took me out to actually see the burn areas in Kohala at the Mauna Kea Resort and other areas. So I was able to see myself just how close we got here on Hawai'i Island. And had it not been for our firefighters and first responders putting every bit of expertise and effort and just, you know, everything into it, we could have seen Lahaina here on Hawai'i Island and even on Maui. You know, I toured the areas in Kihei and Kula, up country areas where we also had fires going. And honestly, that was really the one of the bigger threats that day. Again, things could have been absolutely so much worse. It was already devastating, but literally we could have seen other communities face the same sad reality that Lahaina is facing right now. So I just want to thank all of our first responders for stepping up everywhere they were and for continuing to help our Maui community. You know, what we've been doing in addition to making sure that our colleagues know exactly what has happened here and our, you know, the urgent need that we have to make sure that FEMA is funded, that government does not shut down, that the resources and aid does not stop coming and cannot stop, quite frankly, for years to come to Hawaii. You know, we also have been working to be that warm hand that people need during this difficult time. I have Nicole Gray on this call. She is my Hawai'i Island field representative. She is a constituent advocate. She has been coming out to Maui. We did 2 resource fairs within a week of everything happening. We put 2 consecutive Saturdays together. Before any disaster recovery centers were open, we pulled state, federal, county, nonprofit resources together in one place. And we saw 500 plus people at each event come forward to get everything from birth certificates to passports, talking about immigration issues. Green cards were burned, signing up for FEMA, getting Red Cross counseling, Veterans Affairs, all of these different things in one place where they could really start to look at getting every bit of help that they need to get through this, not just now, but the long term. And so, you know, for our office, it really is critical that we do a number of things, but we want to make sure our constituents across the islands that have been impacted really get the help that they need. That is a first and foremost priority. I will tell you that I sat down and did a satellite office in Kona a couple of weeks after the fires. And even there, they had family on Maui that they needed help. They had property in Lahaina that was burnt down that they need help. So, you know, when we think of just the scope and scale of the devastation, it really spreads beyond Maui because so many individuals are part of our Lahaina and Maui communities across our state. Apologies for all the noise that you might be hearing behind me. But we are making sure that we get out far and wide to connect those who need it with help and resources. So at the same time, you know, sitting in that satellite office in Kona, the concerns are brought to me to, hey, take a look outside where you're sitting right now at the Civic Center. And it is brown. I drove through Kona, Kawai High yesterday. I'm in Hilo today. Hilo, not really brown, but in the Kona area, we know it's dry. And so as Fire Chief and others mentioned, it is about the prevention. It is about the looking ahead and looking forward. And I've had many conversations with every cabinet member who's come into town, administration official, about how simultaneously to us taking care of all the needs of Lahaina, we have to look forward in terms of how we make sure this absolutely never happens again. And quite frankly, every island that I fly over in our district is suffering from similar drought conditions. This could have taken place on absolutely any island. And so we have to make sure that the water infrastructure is there, that we have to make sure that we're looking at various fire breaks. Can we look at agroforestry techniques, targeted grazing, so that we can make sure that should we find brush fires or wildfires, that we have the infrastructure, we have the things in place needed to make sure that we can have our best efforts to control it. In addition to supporting our first responders and our fire personnel as well with equipment, with all the support that they need to be able to do their job and do it well. And so, I know that there's probably a lot of things that I could cover and should cover in terms of what we're doing. I can assure you, though, that on Monday when I go back to Congress, we're really going to keep on fighting. I'm going to be meeting with administration officials. I'm going to be meeting with members on both sides of the aisle to really emphasize what the needs are right now for Lahaina and for Hawaii as a whole, as we look at that prevention aspect, because we are still not out of the woods by any term. And it is about keeping every community safe from fire and from disaster, making sure the resources to be able to respond quickly to this. And so the pressure definitely is on when I go back on Monday to making sure we have the resources, but at the same time, continuing to make sure that, like I said, we are the warm hand that's going to be there to help people, whether it's something like getting a passport, addressing their green card issues, helping them with shelter issues, answering the questions, getting good information to counter the misinformation, much of which is out there. I can assure you that myself and my team will continue to be present in the community as much as we can and always available online as well. I know my time is running out now, but I would just say this, that we are going to be heading out to the Waimea community. Right now, we will be having a satellite office. I call it Tukuta in your town. People get confused. It's where we bring our constituent advocates to you. We help you deal with any federal issues. I am there as well to talk story and to hear your concerns, hear your great ideas. Thursday, October 5th, from noon to 2. We have to find a place right now. I'm hoping it's at Tutu's house where you all are. It might be somewhere else closer in the community, but from 12 noon to 2, we will be doing satellite offices in Waimea coming to you. And really hope that, whoever is listening might be able to come and join us, share concerns. We can open casework for you and start to address any issues you have at the federal level. But it's our way of bringing our office out to the community. We've been doing this, across the islands, and I've been waiting to get out to Waimea. Can't wait to do so. So I hope to see many of you in person, next month. But thank you for allowing me to join. I apologize. I have to jump off right now. It's going to start to get louder because apparently a plane will be leaving from here very shortly. But please put your questions in the chat. Nicole will be able to take those down and we will be able to respond to the WCA. But appreciate all of your support, your well wishes for Maui and our entire state. And thank you for doing this very important discussion now. Very timely. So thank you, James.
Thank you, Representative. Great to have you on the call. Thank you. And safe travels to you. And we'll see you soon. Mahalo. And part of this discussion is also, and as Representative Kuda talked about, is working with our state partners. So we're grateful to have joined us with here this evening, both Senator Richards and Representative David Tarnas. So I'd like to welcome up first Senator Richards to the floor, if that's all right. And we'll give him a little time here to speak about our state efforts. Thank you, Senator.
Yeah, I gotta get next to the owl. James, can you hear me? Does this sound
Yes,
good?
sir. Yes, thank you, Senator.
Okay, thank you. Again, first of all, my name is Tim Richards. I'm the state senator for this area. And August 8th started different for everybody. As was mentioned by our fire chief, Chief Todd, and I did talk to him week before last, just briefly on this, but I woke up that morning, looked out the window, and I could see fire from my house. And the anxiety that ran through everybody who saw flames that morning, can't be overstated enough. That being said, as Chief pointed out, we were close. We were really close. And thankfully to our first responders, as Chief pointed out, we have 21 fire stations on this island and an additional 18 volunteer fire stations. we are well prepared, but we can be better than that. For myself that day, it started out conveniently, the neighbor ranch, Kohala Ranch, had a bulldozer in the area. Conveniently, they were able to get it started just after the sun came up. So they started cutting a fire break very, very quickly. The firefighters were fighting in the Kohala Ranch area. And as it was the story related to me, they almost called it because they couldn't keep the fire off of the houses. We were close to starting fireballs, which would then domino effect. This was going on in the morning. As Chief said, we had 7 fires that day on this island. That stretched our firefighters to the limit. The one at Waikoloa, or excuse me, at Lalamilo Farm Lots, you know, shout out to our firefighters, yes, but also Parker Ranch. Cowboys were fighting that fire. That fire was threatening the farm lots, but the bigger threat was if it got into open range, it was upwind of Waikoloa Village. And it wasn't lost on the firefighters and the cowboys and the farmers that we got to get this thing taken care of quickly as possible. Down at Mauna Kea, same thing, that started up by the telephone exchange, as I understand. And within 30 minutes from the first time they saw smoke, that structure that they were talking about, the maintenance shed, was engulfed in flames. I was with Congresswoman Tokuda yesterday, and we toured these areas because I wanted her to see it. I didn't realize how hot those fires were on this island. Down at Mauna Kea Resort, saw a service, golf cart, the ones they do maintenance with. It melted where it was. That means it was at least 1,200 degrees. And 30 minutes from the fire until this thing is engulfed, it was close. As our Congresswoman pointed out, the big fire on the Maui, that grabs everybody's heart because we had loss of life there. But we were dealing with fires too. And so this is a reminder for all of us. What is the legislature doing on all this right now? On Tuesday, there was a meeting convened on Maui, and I actually should back up. On the 8th, when all this fire was going, we dealt with our stuff here on this island. And then I got a call from my colleague, Senator Angus McKelvey, who that is his district. And Lahaina, he got a hold of me and he said, Tim, I need help. All the communications were down. He was unable to get a hold of anybody, didn't have cell coverage. They went to the airport to get a signal coming off of, I think it was Lanai or Molokai, and were able to call out. He'd say, Tim, can you take care of this, that, I gotta go. And then I'd hang up and I'd try to take care of things for him. And we did that for probably 10 or 14 days. He'd call me when he could, when he had a charge. Angus lost his house. He lost everything. He said, I said, are you okay? He said, everything I own is on my back or in my car. That's all I got left. And so when I saw him, he was in shorts and a t-shirt because that's all he had. I helped with getting things for him and just keep communications going because communication was a really big deal. And that's one of the things that we can do. I think Dr. Berg and I can agree. They needed to use cellular on wheels that they call cows. And so I was all for the cows that they got them deployed. But that's something that we need to learn. They had trouble with communications. Even in this day and age, they lost communications, and that's a problem. So that's a take-home message for us. Further into that, there's efforts to get stuff to Maui and help facilitate that. There was a group of private pilots flying in supplies because initially there was stuff that wasn't there. And so they were flying in, just dropping it, and Angus was helping facilitate getting that stuff distributed because again, that was part of the problem. No communications, they didn't know how to get things out. We got that done. I got contacted because I'm a veterinarian and there was a problem with the animals. They couldn't get in to rescue the animals. So through a sequence of events, Maui Humane Society contacted our animal control, who contacted me, and I was able to work through the Maui County Council to get things so they could get in and get animals attended to. Again, communication was a really important thing, and that's where I think we need to really focus on getting things handled. Okay, That took care of the initial stuff. So what's going on now? Tuesday, we had a meeting on Maui. And it was convened by the Lahaina Action Committee, which is essentially their Chamber of Commerce. These are all the business owners, and we're in a room at one of the hotels. And there's about 100, maybe 90 business people there, and 20 to 25 people from government, senators, primarily senators. We had the governor, we had the mayor, and we had, like I said, the Senate president showed up, and we listened to what's going on. We have a tragic loss, but the concern we're looking at right now is the economic devastation that's going on and what's going to happen to these guys. You know, I had business owners say, I lost my house, I lost my business, I have employees I can't pay, I'm trying to pay their health care. We're almost upside down. What can we do to get back on our feet? So right now, the Senate is discussing what can we do to look at this. One of the other things that have come up through conversation is, what are we going to do about insurance? And are we going to be in jeopardy of losing some of our insurance companies because of the magnitude of this? So with that, that's briefly what's going on. I think I'm at the end. Oh, I see the stop sign starting to wave. I'll be here to answer some questions later, because I think that's what we're doing. Is that correct? We're answering questions at the end?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
correct, yes.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everybody. Aloha.
Thank you, Senator. Next, I'd like to welcome Representative David Tarnas to speak more to this on the state level. Thanks, Representative.
Thank you, James. Thank you, James. And I appreciate everyone being there. I'm joining you remotely, but I wanted to fill you in on some of the work we're doing in the House as it relates to Maui. I want to say, acknowledge all the folks who did really help, the first responders, the ranchers, and community members who helped deal with our own wildfires and structure fires that were threatening our community. And I really appreciate their hard work on that. After we had our fires in our Kohala area, I spent a number of days there just working on addressing community needs, constituent concerns. So I was on the phone working to try to address their immediate needs, and I'll continue to do that. I wanted to cover today, because this is what James asked me to do, is what are we doing to focus on helping Maui? Because that was really where the devastating losses took place. You can go to the next slide. We just yesterday, or today, just a month after the actual event itself, Speaker Saiki and Majority Leader Nakamura and our Minority Leader Matsumoto announced jointly a bipartisan effort to establish 6 interim House working groups, specifically tasked with the responsibility to address specific topics related to the Lahaina wildfire and make recommendations for appropriate legislative action in the 2024 legislative session. Each of these 6 working groups is tasked with the responsibility of producing a preliminary report by November 1st and a final report by December 15th. And these will detail ongoing actions and recommendations for potential legislation related to the Lahaina wildfire. Go ahead, James. Speaker Saiki specifically said, we are acknowledging the tragedy on Maui. Our hearts go out to them. We remain in mourning for this tragedy, but the House really feels like we need to take action prior to the session to address the immediate issues that require temporary or transitional relief and the long-term relief as well. So these working groups will work with our subject area experts and agencies and stakeholders and engage in extensive discussions about the Lahaina wildfire and come up with recommendations for next session, which starts January 17th, 2024. Go ahead, James. Our Majority Leader, Nadine Nakamura, specifically says we've got to address concerns such as wildfire prevention, shelter, housing, schools, jobs and businesses, economic redevelopment, environmental remediation, food, water, and supplies. These are all top of mind for Maui residents. And through this working group, we're going to be focusing on coming up with these recommendations. And this is really reflecting the House and the Senate's unwavering commitment to support Maui. Go ahead, James. So the first of the 6 working groups I want to highlight, the first one is environmental remediation, co-chaired by our Kona Representative Nicole Lowen, and our representative from Lahaina, Ellie Cochran. And you can see the members there on the screen. This working group specifically is focusing on evaluating the cleanup of ground and ocean contamination, including the time frame, techniques utilized, and to prepare recommendations for appropriate legislative action. Go ahead, James. The next is on food, water, and other supplies, co-chaired by Representative Gregor Iligan from our island and Therese Amato from Maui. The purpose of this working group is to evaluate the availability and distribution of food and other necessary supplies for displaced individuals and families, and to prepare recommendations for legislative action. Go ahead, James. The next working group is focusing on economic issues, jobs, and business, and to evaluate the Maui unemployment rate and the approaches to restart business activity, as well as the impacts on tourism statewide, and to prepare recommendations for appropriate legislative action. This is chaired by Representative Daniel Holt and Andrew Garrett, and you can see the members on the screen here. Go ahead, James. The next is focusing on education, on schools. You know that we've lost a couple of schools and the students are being taken care of in other ways. The purpose of this working group, which is chaired by our education chair, Justin Woodson, and co-chaired by Representative Takenouchi, it's to focus specifically on evaluating the strategies utilized to accommodate the displaced students and the staff to get them back into school. And we are going to have to address these through appropriations and potentially other actions as well. So they're going to develop recommendations for our action next legislative session. Go ahead, James. And housing, shelter. People lost homes, thousands of homes. And what are we going to do with that? Our housing chair, Troy Hashimoto from Maui, is co-chairing this working group and co-chaired with Luke Evslin from Kauai. And the purpose of this working group is to evaluate the availability and creation of temporary and transitional shelters for displaced individuals and families, and to prepare recommendations for action. We're also focusing on what to do in the long term as well. How are we going to rebuild the housing that these people have lost? Go ahead, James. And this is the committee I'm on, which is focusing on wildfire prevention. This committee, chaired by our Water and Land Chair, Linda Ichiyama, and co-chaired by Representative Kila from Oahu, is to identify the causes of the wildfires and what preventive actions that could be taken to reduce the risk of wildfires throughout the state and make recommendations for legislative action. I want to emphasize that all of these working groups really are going to be looking to the experts in the field and the stakeholders on the ground to make recommendations as to what we can do. And it's going to be, we're going to take a significant economic hit, not only on Maui, but statewide. So the budget will be affected by this. Our tax revenues will be affected by this. Our number of visitors will be affected by the wildfire. So we're going to have less resources than we had anticipated, and we're going to have higher demands and different priorities than what we thought just 6 weeks ago. So the fires and how we actually approach this, the rebuilding of the damage from those fires is going to be such a critical priority for us moving into next session. So I want to thank everybody there at the meeting in person and those online, and look forward to hearing from you, because we as legislators actually do a much better job when we hear from you, our constituents for whom we work. So I'll turn it back to you now, James, and look forward to any questions. Thank you.
Mahalo, Representative. I appreciate you being on the call here. And continuing this collaboration across our levels of government, I'd like to welcome in on the call here from representing our county and representing the Hawai'i Island Task Force for Maui Recovery Assistance, Cyrus Jonathan, who is the Executive Assistant to the Mayor's Office, as well as our Director of Communications. Welcome, Cyrus. Aloha.
Hey, aloha, James, and everybody else. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. I do apologize. I'm a bit under the weather. I seem to be the last person in the office and in my household to catch whatever's going around. So please bear with me if my voice is a little hoarse. But, first of all, I just want to say, I apologize. Mayor Roth wanted to be on this call. Unfortunately, he had another event this evening. But, just mahalo to everybody for all their work and efforts, whether on our island or statewide. supporting Maui, supporting fire prevention, and really looking at this issue as a holistic approach. End of the day, the climate, seems to be causing different weather patterns that are being proliferated and unfortunately affecting us, not just here on our island, but across the state and across the globe. So I really appreciate all the senators and representatives and all the people working hard in that space. But, when I was asked to join, I was asked to talk about our task force that we created, and the vision and the goal of the creation of the task force was really that we saw the outpouring of aloha. Maui is only separated by Hawai'i Island by the Alenuehaha channel, which is not very far. Everybody coming over Saddle, coming down Waikoloa on a clear day can see clearly Haleakala. And so with that understanding of familial connections, friend connections, just by merit of being Hawaii, we knew that there would be an unreal outpouring of support and aloha from our residents to Maui. What we also realized was that it was something that the state's never seen before, at least in our generation, and that there would be so much of an outpouring that the receiving end of the aloha would be inundated. And so what we did was we looked at, initially what we wanted to do was put together a guidance. And that guidance essentially took a look at all of what was happening on our island, what was happening in Maui, talking with different people, stakeholders, community representatives, the mayor, Mayor Bisson and his team, and saying, okay, how can we best help? And when we issued that guidance, it basically was, please, refrain from physical goods support initially. So much stuff was coming in from Honolulu, from elsewhere on Maui, from folks on our island. So we wanted to kind of get people away from that and kind of get them more into, can you give monetary? Can you hold off and wait to give your talents? A lot of people wanted to build homes. They wanted to lend their expertise in environmental cleanup. They want to lend their expertise in architecture, engineering, so on and so forth. And so we tried to organize all that in our initial guidance. And basically, those are three of the things. One was, please don't go unless you have someplace to stay, identified, and so that was kind of the initial. We found, donor locations where people that were trusted donors that were working directly with community organizations. And that's how it started. And then we realized, okay, we got to build a pipeline. We have to, beyond the guidance, we have to figure out a way to store goods or to intake goods, store goods, ship goods, and then have those goods disseminated as necessary on Maui. And we did put together a pipeline. We're still in a holding pattern based on the mayor's request, based on community organizations' requests and hubs on Maui. I realize that some people get information that things are still needed, but all of the credible partners that we're working with, organizations that we have relationships with, have all told us, please wait. So the current work, or the work of, I guess, last week's work was really looking at, okay, let's identify our storage locations and let's figure out what we have out there that needs to be stored. Let's inventory it. Let's kind of catalog it and organize it, put it in containers. And then so when Maui's ready, we're going to be able to ship those goods off. And so we're going to begin collection probably next week sometime of all the different places that are storing things and collect and put into one container or two containers based on the volume of goods. We're working with Matson to obtain those containers. We have different storage locations, three of them, Hilo, Kona, and Waimea, that we're going to be storing these things at if we need to. It might just be one storage location, but we do have a lot of great people in the community offering up trucking services, storage services. I mean, the gamut of aloha you can imagine. So that was kind of a big thing that we identified the pipeline. And then recently this week, we wrapped up a collaboration with CNHA, the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement, with their president, CEO Kuhio Lewis, whose organization really filled the gaps for Maui. Their nonprofit had the flexibility and the foresight to see kind of where these gaps were in the pipeline themselves, and have recently gotten a contract from Maui to deal with all of the distribution and storage and cataloging of items on Maui. And so we're working directly with them to find out what the needs are, how we can best assist with physical goods. But beyond physical goods, what we then realized as a pivot in the group was there's a lot longer term recovery and assistance that needs to take place that's just beyond getting them things they need or assisting with cleanup or, you know, sending over county staff to help in different aspects of the, I guess, assessment and rescue period. But the recovery is going to take a long time. Building houses takes a long time. And so what we thought was, as a collective group, that we need to focus on those that are probably likely to relocate here. Displaced residents that might be in a hotel right now, that might have temporary housing on Maui right now, that might be couch surfing on a cousin's couch right now. But in the next few months is going to have to look for a relocation. And it could be to the mainland, but looking at our proximity to Maui, looking at our affordability, our land mass, we just felt that we would be probably a likely second home or temporary home for these folks who, as they wait to rebuild Lahaina, as they wait to rebuild their home or find another place back on their island. You know, a lot of these people lost their jobs as well. And so we thought, okay, how do we position ourselves to be able to intake folks seamlessly, understanding that they're essentially coming in as refugees? And I know that's a pretty vague word, and they're definitely not, you know, anywhere near the level of some of the refugees that you see coming in from places like Ukraine or Turkey, Syria. But they definitely are going to be coming with very little, maybe some supplies that they've got since the fires. They'll be coming in with what they have in their bank accounts, perhaps some added funds that they were able to acquire from some of the organizations that are handing out cash right now. But that's all very temporary stuff. And so we said, okay, let's identify housing locations and let's create we decided, okay, let's put together a digital hub. So we've been working on the back end on our county website. We should be go live tomorrow, hopefully, fingers crossed. We'll have, you know, employment resources, food assistance resources, housing resources, kind of everything they might need in a digital space. But further understanding that people that are suffering great trauma might have a difficult time. One, they don't even have a computer, some of them, right? So how do we get them to a physical location where we can provide assistance day to day that will allow them to that will, you know, give them an opportunity to sit down with somebody who can help them navigate all of these resources and really get themselves back on their feet into housing and becoming, you know, productive and functioning members of our society here on Hawai'i Island and seamlessly integrate them. And so tomorrow I have a meeting with the University of Hawaii at Hilo. Chancellor Bonnie Irwin has been in part of our group. She's generously kind of taken the reins, asking to be a big part of our effort. And we're working to figure out how to integrate the students' time, volunteer-wise, credit hours in the social service and you know, areas, in the psychology areas, and really trying to figure out, okay, can we find a physical location on campus where students can provide support through, you know, 8 to 4 or something like that, where people can come in, we'll give them the support they need, and then they'll be able to hopefully not only offer those services, but also mental health services, counseling services, and all those things to the various programs that they have on campus. And so we're going to have that meeting tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have a tangible site identified, and we'll be sharing that out with the public as well. So I guess the 3 things in there was the guidance that we provided, the physical sort of pipeline that we've created, and then lastly, the integration portion that we're hoping to go live with either tomorrow or early next week. And with all of those 3 things, we think we're really trying to position ourselves on the back end, not stepping on Maui's toes, not getting too into business that's not our own, but making sure that there is that support and there is that aloha that we're being able to provide to that community in a way that's thoughtful and in a way that actually makes impacts over a long period of time, not so much right up front, but over the extended period of recovery. And so that's basically what we've done. For folks that want to get involved, I know my time is probably up, but I just want to say, for folks that want to get involved, I think the best things right now to do are just to, ask folks to please slow down on the physical stuff and just look for ways to plug in once we go live with our resource centers. We're going to need volunteers for sure over time. And so we'll be reaching out to community associations like yourself for that help. But just right now, we're kind of in a holding pattern. And we realize people want to help, but we appreciate your patience in that. So sorry for going over, but I appreciate it very much for you folks having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cyrus. Appreciate you being here on the call with us here this evening. We're going to move on here just a little bit, a little different change of pace here. During our Kohala wildfire events last month, we saw tremendous support from community members, businesses, and restaurants in an effort to feed and care for our frontline community heroes. And for the month of September, the Waimea Community Association will be spotlighting the Friends of First Responders Hawai'i Island and their holistic approach to supporting our first responders. So this evening, we are joined by Chaplain Renee Godoy, founder and president of the Friends of First Responders Hawai'i Island. Welcome, Renee. Please join us up in the front.
Thank you. So did Cyrus take some of my minutes?
No, you're good. You're good.
I have 8 minutes, so I'll take that long. But anyway, I just want to thank the Waimea Community Association for what you're doing. Patty, who I got to have lunch with a couple months ago, and Nancy, I spoke to her. I don't know the face, but really appreciate what you're doing. And I'm here to talk about my favorite group of people, which is first responders, which I just happen to love them passionately, and want to do everything that we can to support them. So we truly are friends of first responders. A little bit about myself. I've served as a police chaplain for 16 years, been serving as a fire chaplain about 8 years. I train their peer units, and if you don't know what a peer support unit is, it's a group of their peers that we train to help them when they go through critical incidents. Because first responders generally don't really feel like anyone really understands their job. And I don't know how we could, because of the trauma they face. I like to tell stories, and I thought about coming up here and telling a story, but every story I can think of that led a first responder to drinking, or, where they couldn't sleep at night, is too horrible to tell, because they experience trauma all the time. So trauma is normal for them. So when something puts them over the top, it's pretty bad. I used to tell our church people, when you read the paper and you see these horrific crimes, these horrible accidents, and you get upset, pray for the first responders who, they're not just reading about it. Yeah, they're seeing the grandma crying. They will tell you they never forget the sound. And I've been up at the chapel when a mother has lost their child. You never get that sound ever out of your head. And so we got to take care of them. I'm so glad for all of the other programs and things that take care of much needed things, but our human resources, our first responders, we really need to take care of them. So this was born out of just a group of us got together that have worked together through the years. Most of our board is retired fire or police, or have some connection with police and fire or DLNR or different agencies like that. And about 3 years ago, I was thinking about starting a nonprofit, didn't really know what I was getting into or anything. And I thought, well, I'll get this group of people together that I've known, and I'll throw out the idea, and we'll see where it goes. And really, all of us through the years, we're tired of seeing the suffering of our first responders. We're tired of seeing suicides. We're tired of seeing divorces. I'm tired of going to the bedside of a first responder whose liver is shot because they just drank those memories. I mean, we're just tired of it, of seeing addictions, of seeing bad behavior, which sometimes it's a result of that constant exposure to trauma. And there was so little we could do. We have strong support from our police chief and our fire chief that was on here. Wonderful support, but they have their hands full, fighting fires and crime. So somebody else has to take that, role. And we were frustrated because it takes so long to do anything when you're trying to work through a department without funds. And that's what, that's how we were born. So a little bit about what we do events, we do training, we do some crisis response. I mean, tomorrow night is going to be our first ever couples retreat, which has been a dream of mine for a very long time, for years. And it's the first time that I know of that there's a retreat that is being offered strictly to first responders. And the speakers will be speaking to the specific stresses that they face because they're not like other marriages. When you have your spouse coming home angry or shut down, too much trauma. So we're really excited about that. It costs us a lot of money because we wanted to make it affordable for them. So that means we're taking on the greater part of the expense. We have 28 couples and then we have to shut it down. We couldn't take anymore. But we're really hoping next year that we'll be able to do take more couples and do it every year and provide other things for the families. A big part of what we do also is training. We've brought in some training for our first responders, of resiliency training or training on, helping them to understand how this constant exposure to trauma is affecting them, how they can help themselves, how they can help their colleagues, and from the first training that I ever did, because I do the training for police and fire and their peer units. I remember, this one was for police, and officers were coming up to me during break and going, I think I have PTSD, like, wow. I mean, I'm looking at all that signs and symptoms. That's me. And that awareness is great for them. It's great for them that you got to do something about it. It's great that they have this awareness of their colleagues, but they're also able to reach out to them and help them. Because a lot of times these are strong, stoic people. They don't like asking for help. They don't like recognition for what they do. And so who do they talk to, right? Their fire station buddy at the station, their cop friend in the car. That's the first line. And so we want to equip them, on just what not to say, how to listen, how to recognize when someone may need help beyond what they're able. We have sent peer unit members for advanced training to the mainland. We've brought people here to do training for our first responders here. But we also have an emergency fund that we haven't had to use yet, and I can't wait till we use it. That because I know of at least, one first responder that was just traumatized and was impacting his marriage, him, and was sent to a retreat center. I think it was in California, and, just came back a different person. So we have this fund because unfortunately he had to scramble to get money to be able to go. And we don't ever want, by the time a first responder comes to the point to say, I need help, they needed help yesterday. So we don't want them going, I don't know where I'm going to get the money to fly there. I don't know how I'm going to pay the tuition. And this might be the thing that saves their life. This saved this person's marriage and much more. I think their career, because one of the common things that happens is they start getting into trouble at work because they're carrying a lot of anger, a lot of different things. And so that is basically what we do. I don't need much more time than that. I think this community loves our first responders. These are the guys that are out there fighting that fire at risk of their life. I did get to go to Maui to do debriefing with AMR, and they lost one of their personnel. So we got to take care of them. So thank you. I have brochures and cards. I'll leave, and if anyone has questions, I'm leaving while I still have 30 seconds left.
Mahalo, Pastor. Thank you so much, Renee. Really great having you join us here this evening. So if you're interested in learning more about Friends of First Responders Hawai'i Island and ways to support them, please visit fofrhi.com. And I posted those in the chat there online as well. We will also be passing around the basket this evening, so please look out for one of our board members and supporters here to pass around the basket. And if you're inclined to donate here this evening in person, we're grateful for your generosity and the support this gives for our first responders. Mahalo nui. Thank you, Terry. Okay, while the basket's going around, I'm gonna heli on to the next one here, if that's okay. And this is really our final portion before we dive into some Q&A while we allow for that. We're grateful once again to be joined by Nani Barreto, who is the co-executive director of Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization. HWMO continues to provide crucial resources for communities and community members as we identify our roles in fire prevention and preparedness. So welcome back, Nani. Good to see you again.
Thank you so much, James. Aloha, everyone. And thank you again to the Waimea Community Association for including us on your excellent lineup of very relevant speakers tonight. I am Nani Barreto, and like James said, I am with the Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization. Yeah, I mean, up until a few weeks ago, many folks here may have never heard of us. Many of you may have never even considered wildfire something you had to think about, but we've been here as an organization in this community right above Waimea Coffee for more than 20 years. And we've been thinking about this stuff for that long. And we've been mapping our risks and making resources and programs available to anybody that wants to use them. So just a little bit about us. Our only focus is wildfire, everything but, putting water on flames. So we focus on prevention, mitigation, pre-fire planning, post-fire recovery, and wildfire science communication. We definitely do not do this alone. All of our work is really done in really close partnership with our fire and our forestry agencies, including Hawaii Fire Department and Civil Defense that are here with us today. And our various community leaders, especially the FireWise ones that might also be in the room today. And then we invite everybody else really into this work with us. So fire, it's not like other natural hazards. We can't, change the path of a tsunami, but we can change the path of a wildfire. We can manage our yards and our larger landscapes really in ways where fire can't spread so quickly and so intensely across them. We can design, we can build houses and subdivisions, we can retrofit existing ones in ways that can resist fire. It really is a team sport, so everybody has to be involved, and we invite everybody to be involved with us. Planning, designing, codes, vegetation management, all of these things are required if we want to reduce our risk of fire losses. We always say that firefighting is our very last line of defense, and it's, our first line of defense really is all the things that we can do ahead of time to prepare and mitigate. And then, of course, when we do have to evacuate, we want to make sure that everything's in place so that we can do it safely and effectively, and of course, in a way that gives our, firefighters a fighting chance. So by the way, Hawaii Wildfire, we are a nonprofit. We are not a government entity or a department. We sometimes have to debunk that myth. We're pretty small and scrappy, but I like to think that we do a lot with the little that we have. And really that's because we have a whole team of volunteers and partners that take action alongside us. Really all of us doing what we can to keep our people and our places fire aware and fire prepared. And we started right here in West Hawaii, right alongside you guys. Collaboration is key for us. Our work is truly informed by the needs of all of you and the risks on the ground. And we try to fill in the gaps of our agency partners. And we, are always making sure our work is on par with national best practices. And that has allowed us to grow far beyond West Hawaii, where now today we serve as the primary hub, again, of fire prevention and mitigation across the state. And we definitely take this responsibility seriously. So briefly, I wanted to share some resources and programs that are available to Hawaii residents and visitors. I was going to use the chat box to drop some links, James, but I think since we are going to be at Saturday's fair at Kahiluha at the theater there, maybe just stop by our booth, and all of these resources will have paper copies, we'll have QR codes if you prefer digital copies. And that way I don't need to paste anything in the chat box. So please come by. I think Patty said we're on the main stage and we're going to be there with some other community leaders and pick up some resources. So the first resource I want to share is our statewide all-partner public information campaign that's called Wildfire and Drought Lookout. This campaign gets launched every year. It's simple messaging focused on prevention and what we can do to prepare ahead of fire season. So we ask anybody and everybody, including everybody here, to know this information and to share this information. The campaign webpage is hosted on our website, and the resources are really simple. There's a front and back fact sheet with tips on, how we can prevent and prepare. You can sign up for civil defense alerts. You can check out the Hawaii State Drought Monitor and those sorts of things. So it's hawaiiwildfire.org/lookout. The second resource we have is our Ready, Set, Go Wildland Fire Action Guide. This is a resident handbook that is specific to Hawaii homeowners and visitors. It details everything residents and visitors need to know to prepare ahead of time, be set to go in the event of a fire event, and then things to know so that you can go during an active evacuation. So again, we have hard copies. We'll make sure they're at the booth on Saturday. You can go to our website and you can download it. That's like our one primary resource for residents to help them get ready. We have our Firewise USA program. This is a national voluntary program that recognizes neighborhoods across the country that are actively working toward residential and community level fire awareness and preparedness. We have 10 neighborhoods in our area alone, which is huge, and all of them are nationally recognized as Firewise. And we have 4 more that are going through the application process, which means, we have neighborhoods in our vicinity that have a team of committed volunteer residents. These are the movers and shakers really in their community, and they are working really hard to raise awareness and encourage their friends and neighbors to join their efforts in getting their homes and their yards prepared for fire. So if you live in one of these neighborhoods, I invite you to reach out to these community leaders and learn more. Ask them what kind of support they could use from you or get involved in their efforts. These individuals are doing more than anyone else I know in terms of making things happen. So anybody out there, if you are one, feel free, raise your hand. I invite you to. That they care deeply, and we make sure that they are connected to the experts and the resources that they need and to one another so that they can help us make a difference. And for those that don't live in a Firewise neighborhood, but you do care and you want to do something, I invite you to find a neighbor or 2 or 3 and organize yourselves and really let the Firewise framework help you find direction and take action. And once you're ready, you can walk on over to Waimea Coffee, or you can email or call us and we can help you take the first steps and get you started. Another flagship community program that we offer is the Community Wildfire Ambassador Program. This program is for residents, mainly of Firewise communities, that really want to serve as that primary information ambassador to their neighbors for fire information and resources. We at Hawaii Wildfire, we train them so that they understand and can share all of the available resources and programs. They also get trained on how to do home assessments. And our next training, I believe, maybe before the end of the year, if not next spring. So feel free, reach out to me if you want to find out who your neighborhood ambassador is. And again, there's information on our website. And there's information if you want to sign up for a free home assessment. I will connect you to one of those ambassadors so that they can come over and do a 30 to 60 minute home assessment. We also have a fire science arm of the organization. It's called the Pacific Fire Exchange. It has its own website, which is pacificfireexchange.org. And this is a joint program between us and the University of Hawaii. And together we pursue new science based on the needs and priorities of all of our practitioners on the ground. And then we make sure we translate that information and provide it back, provide it in a way that's relevant and usable for those that need it. So I think I'm way ahead of schedule. I do invite you guys to come check out the booth at Saturday. We'll have a link where you can subscribe to newsletters if you want to keep up to date with anything wildfire related, especially upcoming workshops, new resources, opportunities to connect, that sort of thing. And we're also, as we sort of engage with all of our various community and professional partners across the state, we're collecting and tracking current concerns and priorities and even shovel-ready project ideas that people have, so we can think through how we can best support all of our different partners moving forward. So there will be a link at the booth as well for that. So James, thank you so much really for giving our organization the space and the time to talk fire with you today. I know that it's on everybody's mind right now, and we are here. You can reach out anytime. I am one of 2 directors, and our collective email address is directors@hawaiiwildfire.org. And Patty, I hope I hit the points that you're hoping for. Thank you.
Thanks, Nani. Really appreciate you joining us once again and sharing those wealth of resources and information there. We look forward to seeing you and your team this Saturday for sure. We're gonna just open up the gallery here since we're kind of really at the end of the program, and I wanted to give our guests, we have some questions that have come on online. NT Lonnie is going to kind of gauge the room and pull on some questions. So we have a couple of our guests on the call here that we still have on with us, and I know Senator Richards is in the room, and so if there are a couple questions, we can take the next 10 minutes here and fire away. So Lonnie, I'll take you lead away, and then I've got a couple online that we can intersperse.
I have a question here for him. Hi, aloha, I'm Megan. I'm with Big Island now, and I just had a question about the evacuation route on Waikoloa Road. What kind of plans are in place? I know that was a big issue in Lahaina, right? Not having a steady evacuation route. So I just was curious what the plan is there.
Can you hear her, James?
Yeah, so I guess I can repeat the question to the best of my knowledge. It's the condition of the evacuation, Hulu Street evacuation road in Waikoloa.
So what is the county's plan in the event that
The plan going forward for it. Let's see, I don't have Cyrus on the call. Yes, Talmadge, did you want to speak to that at all, or?
Sure, I'll respond to that. As far as evacuating, part of some of the products that we're working with Nani folks on is kind of a system where people recognize in like a tiered fashion what the situation is, so that people that want to, they can evacuate early. And the hopes are that everybody's not waiting for the last minute where the congestion is going to happen. So, that's part of our strategy. Get the information out. Through the education phase of it, people understand what the level of the threat is, and they can make their decision when to go. And like I said, we prefer that people not wait to the last minute, so that's where the issues begin. That's when, you're risking your life, you're risking the first responder's life. So early evacuation based upon the information given is key to a successful evacuation. We understand that our roadways are not efficient enough to have a mass evacuation, without having taken long times and so forth. So it's got to be done this way. But recognize if you're going to go at the last minute, it's going to be a problem no matter what. So evacuate early. That's what we urge everybody to do.
Thanks, Administrator. Rep. Tarnas, did you want to chime in on that?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for that question. 2 points. One of them is the county has done quite a bit of work to improve the emergency egress road off of Hulu Street so that it is able to accommodate single line of vehicles, Makai down to Queen Kahumanu Highway. It's definitely not county standard road or anything, but it is going to be helpful. And I want to acknowledge the Waikoloa Community Association and the community emergency response team there that has held a couple of different Saturday events to familiarize people with where that is located and that they can use it. There's also making progress on getting warning sirens in Waikoloa. It's taken a long time, but it's slowly but surely getting closer to installation. I don't have any set date on that, but that's I want to acknowledge Administrator Magno's work on that, as well as the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency itself. And then finally, I want to also let folks know, if you haven't, that the county has been working with some of the private developers of neighborhoods at the far end of Paniolo Avenue. And they have had discussions over many months now. I've been involved in some of them, so has Senator Richards. And it's really being led by the Hawaii County Planning Director, Sendo Kern, with the support of the mayor. And what the discussions are about is that it's possible, though it's not been finalized yet, but it looks promising that the developer of one of those residential areas will take on the task of actually building a county standard road from the end of Paniolo Avenue, Makai, to Queen Kahumanu Highway. And nothing's formal been signed yet. Ivan and Senator Richards has been working with them to make sure that the state highway folks can accommodate the intersection at Queen Kahumanu Highway. But this is a long-standing desire of the community in Waikoloa, so that they're not just a great cul-de-sac. You know, they need another road in and out. And so nothing definite yet, but it looks very positive. And I frankly look forward to an announcement from Mayor Roth so that we can all know what the timeline is and what the path forward is. But I don't know if Senator Richards wants to add to that, but I know we've both been in on some of these conversations over the many months, and it certainly does look very promising. Thank you, James.
Thanks, Representative. And I don't know if senators want to chime in there, but the general plan, as I mentioned at the top of the meeting, I would encourage people to attend those informational sessions and provide input and feedback on how we map and plan out some of our communities as well, and how we look forward to developing those areas and what they those needs that we're identifying as community members. So I'll just throw that in there. Back to you, Lonnie.
Okay, sir.
Hi, I'm Gary Padavani. I'm president of the Kohala Ranch Community Association. So I was just wondering if anyone could shed any light on the actual source of the Kohala Ranch fire. I don't know what the official name of it is. I know there were absolute extreme conditions that day, but we've had several, at least, fires coming up around us, Makai, whatnot, that fortunately have been put out before they ever reach the ranch. But I'm wondering if there's been a source identified for how our fire and also the Mauna Kea fire at Maui and whatnot, and Spencer, how they actually started.
I'll pass it over to Chief Todd here. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, so we did send our investigators out. As of right now, it's undetermined for sure. There's definitely some belief that at least out of the 7 fires that we'd had that day, while some were actually arson in the Ka'u region, which led to an arrest, the fires in the Kohala Ranch region, Mauna Kea Beach region, it's believed they were electrical, but we don't have any evidence for sure on that. As of right now, we have no evidence that would suggest that there was any arson or anything else going on in that region. No, it is, I spent 6 years as an investigator, and there's a variety of things that can start fires, from people just pulling over temporarily and their exhaust or even their brake pads being close to some bushes and setting them off that way, to cigarettes, to broken bottles that have focused light just at a certain time of the day. And so there's, from that aspect, as well as arson, as well as electrical lines, there's a lot of possible causation. And so we'll go out and we'll do the investigation, but a lot of times it's actually found to be undetermined because we just don't have anything indicative that a fire started here by any particular reason. We're looking in the long term of establishing more cameras in the area so we can track potentially people coming through intersections or things like that, or being able to do that for long-term evidentiary value, and potentially trying to see if there's some other causation or being able to catch things on video. But as of right now, for these particular fires, they're undetermined.
Thank you, Chief. Lonnie?
Ma'am? Hi, I'm Jada Rufo. I'm with the Hawaii County, the Waimea CERT team. And so I'm kind of familiar with how we get our alert system going, but I'm wondering if the administrator can explain what's the proper protocol for sending out alerts, and perhaps explain how people can sign up for the alerts. Thank you.
You get that, James?
Yep. Administrator, did you get that one about the Everbridge and whatnot?
Can't hear you.
Okay, keep turning off my mic. Anyway, it's actually a big program, and it incorporates the sirens, the National Integrated Public Alert Warning System, and then our local Everbridge messaging system. So, all of these are tools that we utilize to get messages out. But what we control locally is called Everbridge, and you can sign up for an app, or you can go online, access our webpage, and it'll show you the links that you sign up for Everbridge. You sign up for the mode that you want to receive information, whether it's a text, you can get it in Facebook or Twitter, X. You can get it on a landline phone call. You can get it on email or a cell phone call. Don't choose all of them, because you'll be calling me to take you off of them. So choose the method that you most likely receive messages. So do that, and you can sign up for, like I stated earlier, what's your vulnerabilities? State, put down what impacts you. Does flooding impact you? Does fire impact you? You can specifically put down what issues are created you want to get messages for. So go into the system, select it. It's a voluntary system where you select what you want and sign up that way. The other systems, I'll be there Saturday, and I can explain the whole national system to everybody that integrates the siren system and the IPAWS, Integrated Public Alert Warning System. It's kind of interesting. And the more knowledge that the public has about that, it helps us out that much more and creates that more resilient community. Thank you.
Thanks, Administrator. Lonnie, you have one more there?
Okay, that's a question.
I have really enjoyed and appreciated the level of information that we've been able to receive from the parties that spoke, including the Reverend. But I think I do want to express that we would be remiss if we did not include in the array of parties to thank would be the Department of Agriculture's Division of Irrigation. Because during the Lahaina fires, their crew went ahead and maintained pressure uniformly throughout those farms, of which there's probably 30 or 40 of them. So the lettuce got sprinkled. But for those people such as the Halls and the Burns, where we were entirely dependent on the irrigation system water, I want to say that the monitoring and the attention that was given to that system for the hours that it took to stabilize everybody is a point of appreciation. It needs to be expressed and needs to go on record. The fellow that heads up that we just happened to be David Green, and I'm saying it's great. David, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bergen.
Any more questions?
Charles Heath, I live here in Kamala.
Second.
I just wonder if anyone in the shelter committee has looked at lifting the ban on trailer houses as a possible solution for readily available housing.
A question for, question for either the Senator or Representative Tarnas on, I believe that was directed towards them, on limiting the type of housing that is available for the shelter purposes.
I know that certainly.
I'm not talking about limiting the houses. I'm talking about expanding the housing.
So
in the room.
Tim will take this, but I can just say from the House perspective, it will be one of those matters that will be considered in our working group on shelters and temporary housing, is to see how we can actually expand the type of units that are being used, as you had mentioned. So let me turn it over to Senator Richards for comments from the Senate. Thank you.
Thanks, Representative. The short answer is looking at any and all. We have modular homes that are being built on this island through HPM. We have a building code challenge. That being said, with the governor's declaration of emergency for housing, this predates the fire, looking at any and all options, because we're so short on housing now, and now we're even worse. I know the Maui fire, they had 6,000 people in hotel rooms and another 1,000 people in short-term vacation rentals. That's 7,000 people. And that's going to stop very, very shortly in the next, I think they got a 2-week extension. So it's a 45 deal. So we got to get something done quickly. And so this is being evaluated. Again, when we had our meeting there earlier this week, we're listening to all this stuff. So we know what we need to do as marching orders.
Thank you.
Mahalo, Senator. There are a lot of questions. I know we're going past 7 here. There are a lot of questions, good questions that have come in online, and I'm really grateful for those that have come in via email as well, in the chat, watching the chat here a little bit. I do encourage you to attend the Fire Prevention and Resilience Fair this Saturday. A lot of these individuals are going to be there to really address and answer your questions. Some of these questions are about, you know, the use of our ag lands and rotational grazing to reduce fire load, to also talking about types of endemic and indigenous species, trees or plants that may be more fire resistant. So there are definitely some interesting questions about that have come in here. And so I do encourage you to visit with us on Saturday, and a number of these other officials here that will be there to entertain and listen to your questions and take them into consideration. So I really thank everyone for their questions here this evening, and for joining us. So with that, I'm going to start our close of the meeting. I'm grateful to all of our officials and elected leaders that have joined us here. Mahalo for taking the time to update our viewers and attendees, for welcoming opportunities to engage with the community. We are grateful for your leadership and your commitment to the community, especially during this time of healing. So mahalo nui. And thank you all for the viewers joining us on the live stream, and to the attendees join us in person at Tutu's house. We are grateful for your support, and mahalo nui to our friends at Tutu's house, of course. You're always welcome to revisit and rewatch this recording up on our Facebook page and up on our YouTube channel. And our meeting next month, Thursday, October 5th, we'll be listening and hearing from the planning department as they kind of go through the general plan steps and phasing. And then I also wanted you to save the date for our Mahalo First Responder Dinner in November, where we'll also have a number of our guests that join us here as well. And we can enjoy a nice meal and give thanks for our first responders and all they do for our community. And we look forward to having you join us for both of these evenings, and being really part of the community and supporting these efforts. Mahalo nui. On behalf of the Waimea Community Association Board, I wish you good health, be well, aloha. Thanks everyone. Have a nice evening.
Mahalo, everyone.